We in the game now, boy. We in the game, man. So we back. Just so you guys know. You see the new setup. You know what it is. You know exactly what it is. No pressure, no diamonds, man. This is Alex Rose. We got my boy Thomas Solano right here, bringing it home, man. Man, what's been going on?
You know, we're just coming off the Christmas holiday, and I don't know, man. You know, I've been just kind of reflecting on the year. Christmas was good. It's not my favorite holiday anymore, but it's a good one with family and stuff. And I love the fact that, you know, what it's about. We celebrate Christ and things like that. But you know, when I said it's not my favorite, it's because I don't have that anticipation like I did when I was a kid, right? So for me as a father, it's good to watch my kids and all their excitement. But it was great, man. Great time with family. But really, what I've found myself doing this last couple of weeks, specifically, is just reflecting on the year. And you know, it was a little bit of a different year. I think this is the first time we're actually together. You know, doing this, you know, with this setup and things like that. So,
leveling up.
It feels good. The energy feels good. You know, we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years in an office together and stuff like that. And this year, you know, it's just due to COVID and stuff, it's been different, you know, and that hasn't really happened. But I'm glad that we're together right now in the same room in proximity and feed off of each other's energy. But man, I've just been reflecting on the year. What about you?
Man, exactly. Like I just had a long conversation, probably about almost an hour ago, just about, you know, how do you feel about where you're at right now, right? And compared to where you were at this time last year, you know, and I had to do a lot of deep thinking, and you know, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and things have been pretty crazy, obviously, as everybody knows. But you know, I'm excited. You know, I'm excited about where I'm at. You know, there's a lot of great things. You know, I'm engaged. You know, moved to a whole different area. A much, you know, moved on place. You know, confidence is on it. You know, is definitely increasing. But you know, did we necessarily do everything that I wanted to do this year? No, not even close.
Right.
But you know, taking the wins where you can get them was a big deal, and realizing just how far we have come in such an insane, crazy year. You know, I was listening to I'll talk about it a little later about what I heard from P. Diddy, but it was, you know, it's just a lot of reflection, man, and you know, with such leaps and bounds that we made from this time last year to now, I'm just excited to see what's going to happen and put forth, you know, what plans we have in place and things like that. I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that for this upcoming year, you know, and if we can make just as big as leaps and bounds as we made from last year to this year, from this year to next, man, I'm elated. I'm excited. I'm excited for it,
about
man.
What it looks like, huh?
Yeah, man.
Look, man, I think you said something great there, right? Because you did it in a year where most people that I've spoken to outside of kind of our circle, most people are looking at this year as like it was the worst ever, you know. And for some, I get it, like, not to sound insensitive, I know there's people that have lost family members and things like that due to, you know, some of the circumstances and stuff, and so, you know, I'm not insensitive to that, but it has, you know, for my wife and I, it's been one of our best years ever. You know, just because of where we are, like you mentioned, you know, like you've been able to make some progress, and man, you know, round of applause for you and yours, you know, making those moves, man, and relocating to, you know, what some would consider a better city, a better opportunity, different mindset, that's for sure. Because we both came from kind of the same place, and just the mindset of people around is a little bit different. And when you're on a mission and on a path to grow in every capacity, especially as an entrepreneur, your environment is important. And so that was huge, dude, for you. And yes, the engagement and things like that, man. I'm excited.
Woo.
I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for myself and my wife and things as well, because looking back on this year, some of the things I took away is that my relationship with her, it's obviously it's gotten stronger, where statistically I hear divorces are up this year,
Isn't that
and things like that, because they couldn't be around each other, I guess. You know what I mean? It's my assumption. People are realizing, like, damn, I didn't really like this person as much as I thought. I can't spend all this time with them. But for me, it really opened up my eyes to the fact that I'm blessed with an incredible woman. We've gotten tighter in our communication. Kind of the position that we've put ourselves in over the last few years, it was almost like we set ourselves up for what was coming for 2020, not even knowing what we were setting it up for. Meaning, we had the right pieces in place to be able to stay home, take our kids, you know what I mean, do the homeschooling thing, like educate from home, still generate income, actually grow and get licensed in more states, and scale, in a time where most businesses are not. Most businesses are struggling. They're
cutting
closing
back.
down. They're cutting back, right? Layoffs and things like that. And it's unfortunate, but it's the blessing. That wasn't our situation. And, whether knowing or unknowing, that was by design.
Man. Ooh. Man, it's fire, man. And congratulations, man, on just, sticking through and pushing forward when a lot of people could have just folded. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people folded, man, and you can't really blame a lot of folks, man, because who knows? Like, who could have? Like, if you would have said January 1st, everybody was like, man, 2020, man, the year of 2020 vision, man. I can see clearly to the next century, It was just crazy, man. If you would have just said on, December 31st of 2019, like, look, March or whichever day, everything started getting shut down, that you would have to stay in your house. Probably 5 out of 10 restaurants that are open are probably not going to be open, and a majority of them are probably never going to open again. Your mom and pop shops pretty much closed down. You can't go outside. You got to wear, besides all that, you got to wear a mask to go through any store that you want to go through. You got to stand 6-7 feet away from each other. If anybody would have said that at the beginning of this year, I'd have thought they were crazy. I'd have bet all my money against that.
Yep. You and me both.
And just how you said, preparation without even knowing, preparing without even necessarily knowing you were preparing for that, but being just prepared.
Right.
Man, that's huge, man. And so many folks wish they at least had some bit of, preparation, or wish they would have.
Sure.
And I just got to give it up to you, man. And for your fortitude and you pushing through and growing and excelling, and you and your family and your kids and everything, man. Just seeing that live, because I've seen it live.
Yeah.
Seen it live, y'all. I've seen all that, right? It's a beautiful thing. So, man, I just can't wait to see what's up next for this upcoming year, man. And I'll kind of ask you that question: is going into this next year, like, what's some of, or before we talk about next year, what have you learned from this year about yourself?
About myself?
Yeah.
That I have the capacity to be more patient than I thought possible, I think, is one. That again, that was another area where I've had to grow in almost forcefully. It's not easy, man. I love my wife, but and I kind of made a joke when people said that that they realized they didn't really like them. Listen, I'm just gonna be honest, and I'm comfortable saying this. And if she sees it, she's heard it before, and the feeling is mutual. But I don't always like her. You know what I mean? I love her with all my heart, but I don't always like her. And there's things that she does that, kind of maybe bother me a little, and vice versa. But I realized that I had the ability to kind of internalize situations and come up with an understanding, and that understanding created an opportunity to be exercise a little more patience, I guess, especially with a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and both boys, and high energy,
Yeah,
and,
hell yeah, and I know. I've
being
seen them.
being cooped up in the house and things like that. So one thing that I realized is that I have the ability to be more patient, which is something that I've always wanted to work on for a long time. You mentioned fortitude. It was a great word. It actually made me feel good for you to say that, because I don't know if I would have used that word for myself, but I guess that's another thing that I took away is there's a little more capacity as far as mental strength, like mental toughness. And I've had to have some of these conversations with people that I love, where they were experiencing maybe a little fatigue, maybe they were, not as mentally tough. And not that I'm completely mentally tough, man. I still have a lot of area to improve in that sense. But being able to be that little bit of guidance and hope for people that I care about, that was a huge takeaway for me as well. It was a win, right? We talked about celebrating those wins. That was a little bit of a win, knowing that maybe there's some value that I can bring to people, and so yeah. I mean, what about yourself?
And this year I learned about myself is if I focus on it, I can get it done.
There it is.
If I focus, I can get it done. And just like it's crazy. They talk about writing things down and writing your goals down and visualizing them and talking about them and, doing all those things. I didn't do as much of that as I really wish I would have this past year.
Right.
But man, if I would have said like at the beginning of 2020, at the beginning of this year, if you would have said my situation was what it was, I'd have been like, like I don't want to talk. I don't want to kind of speak out of both sides of my mouth, but I'd have been like, oh, that's pretty cool. Even though it wasn't all the goals, I have so many big goals, but at the beginning of 2020, man, like it was like like sometimes I would view myself. Yeah, I could sometimes be pessimistic. I would sometimes bring myself back down. Like, okay, let's be realistic here.
Sure.
But to do as good as we did, especially with all the things that would have happened, that have happened, it is just crazy. It is just it's insane. So some of the biggest takeaways is realizing like, man, if I really just focus for any length of time on anything, it could get done.
Right.
And literally, like, just to even get to where we are now, it was literally just a couple months of focus. And it was like, man, if I would have did this, who knows how many years ago?
Right.
Who knows where we would have been? You know what I mean? Like, but spilled milk, man. We can't complain about that. Like, I probably wasn't ready for that.
Right.
At that point.
Right.
So just focus. I learned about myself. If you focus, you can get it done. It's not focusing on so many different things, but sometimes I would spread myself a little thin at certain points. That's what I realized about myself. Say no sometimes. You know what I mean? Say no. No could be a real powerful thing.
Elaborate on that a little bit. Like how so?
So taking on too many tasks. I can do this. I can do that. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, somebody asked you to do this. You to be there to do this. Come to this thing. Come to that thing, right? And all of a sudden, you didn't complete doing what your main goal was for the day for yourself. It's because you're taking on, not necessarily saying burden, but you're just taking on too many tasks. And I spread myself thin way too many times, and that set me probably for years spread myself thin too many times. And sometimes it's a, you know what, probably can't do that right now, right? We'll touch base. I'm focused on this right now. It doesn't mean I won't help you later, but I can't take on that task right now. This is what I'm focused on. And
where do you think that came from in the past? If you, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think this is powerful for a lot of people to hear. This is actually for me. Where do you think the want to say yes came from all the time? Do you think that was a little bit of pride, like, oh yeah, I got that? Or was it just wanting to be in service or to people and not like let people down, quote unquote, or so to speak, I should say, or a little bit of both, or where do you think that comes from?
Definitely a little bit of both. Of wanting to not let somebody down because I know they're probably feeling up that they really can't do it, and I know I can do it. Like I know if sometimes I might be a little more technically inclined than somebody else. Sure. Right?
Yeah, I've had to ask you a couple things.
Right. I might be a little more technically inclined than somebody else. And then I could take on a task. It might, if they try to take it on, it might take them who knows how long to get it done. Like probably days or weeks or whatever. But for me, it might take like a day or maybe a day and a half. I can get it done, but it's not a big deal. But I put on the back burner what I should be doing to push my main business is for myself. And I may put that on the back burner because, hey, let me help this person out. It'll be real quick. And then you end up forgetting things like, oh, I should have called this person. I should have even followed up, or I should have done these things because I took on this task.
Right.
And I get so in depth with the task because sometimes I could be a perfectionist. I want to make sure things are done in my mind properly. And it consumes me. So I need to be consumed with what I need to get done so then I can free myself up to take on other tasks to help others. It doesn't mean I won't help them. It just means just not right now. It doesn't mean never. It just maybe means not right now. Sure. And that's happened to me a lot of times, whether it's technically, whether it's just different tasks, with different people. It could be family stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to show up here and here and here, but I'm not really here because I'm thinking about the next place I got to go. And then I'm not really there because I'm thinking about the next place I got to go.
Right.
By the end of the night, I'm pooped, I'm tired, and I can't even remember what any of the conversations were. I can't remember what was going on. Taking on too many commitments when the main commitment is setting up my family. Is making sure my family's taken care of. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I don't want to help people, but, I've realized in reflecting that, people can figure things out.
Yeah.
Give people some rope to figure, like they'll figure it out. If they're not going to ask me, they can ask somebody else for some things. I'm definitely willing to help, but, sometimes no can be a powerful thing. And it also, for me, and for a lot of folks too, I don't know if any, I'm sure other people deal with this too. They take on a lot of tasks, they feel like they can multitask and nothing really gets fully done correctly when you're multitasking a lot of times. And some things can suffer, other things can suffer when you take on too many tasks. Nothing's done to 100% potential.
Right.
And then resentment can set in because if I would have took this task on for such and such and I would have done this and that, and then, now that's a whole nother conversation. So
I think from a leadership perspective, especially, no could be powerful for all those reasons that you just mentioned. Maybe you overcommit and you drop the ball for one of your person's things and not the other, and then they're looking at you and there's all that blame and all that stuff. But then also, yes, you want to be dependable as, a leader, but the only way that you can truly develop people or people develop is by kind of having that responsibility themselves and not creating a culture where they can just come to you to fix their problems, right? But
even if you have the answer.
Right, yeah, it's just like, you want to be able to say, you want to give them the answer because you care, right? And I just know you're a good person in that way. And so I understand that. And I think I've struggled with this. I struggle with it with my kids. my oldest specifically. He'll come to me and he's like, "Can you help me with this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And most of the time I do, but recently my wife has been like, "You need to stop doing." She's a tougher one, dude, between the two of us. So she's like, "You need to stop doing that because you're not helping him really."
Yeah.
And so, you know, recently I'm like, "Nah, you know what, dude? You need to figure this out. Like, I can do it, but so can you." I've tried. I'm like, "You haven't tried your hardest." You know what I mean? And so I think sometimes when we want to just do it because we can, again, from a leadership standpoint, we are taking away the greatest gift that we can give to our people, and that's how to figure it out. You know what I mean? To be resourceful.
Can we get a clues bomb? I got to figure out how to do a clues bomb on here, man. One of those clues nuggets bomb. What is it?
But
that was fire, man.
You know,
that was fire.
Yeah, it's the same to you, dude. You sparked that thought. But yeah, man, I don't know. Let's get back to that 2020, dude. I think this kind of all goes hand in hand as far as lessons. But what would you say? What was the question? How do I want to word it? What would you say was your biggest takeaway? Your biggest takeaway as far as, you know, your personal development, and what about 2020 kind of shed some light on that?
Man, I think the biggest takeaway that I've had from 2020 is like to pivot versus panicking. That's the biggest thing right now that I've taken away is we have to learn to be fluid like water.
Like Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, man. We're going to put a picture in there
the
too.
Great Bruce Lee.
Because, man, we got to be fluid, man. We got to be able to morph and change with situations. There's a lot of people that are getting cut out right now and falling by the wayside that are literally, that weren't willing to change. Right? They weren't willing to, whether it is adopting technology, whether it's from moving things to more online versus storefront. Maybe you have a storefront to showcase a lot of the stuff, but developing online, building a presence socially, right? And being able to pivot versus panic. I think that's been one of the biggest takeaways in 2020. And this is where I was thinking of that quote from Diddy, man. He was like, "Man, please don't let me mess this up." It was like, if you didn't turn on like your hustle muscle right now in 2020, you just don't have it. If 2020 did not allow you to hustle, did not get you to hustle, then you probably don't got it.
Right.
You know, especially if you were in business and doing things before, is because when things got tough, you know, it's the survival of the fittest right now. Some people pressed harder, right? Some people were like, okay, well, I'm going to just figure it out then. Like, I got to figure this thing out. Mm-hmm. I got to, I don't know what, they might have got smacked around, may have cried for a couple weeks when everything got shut down. But I've seen people that I never thought would adopt technology. I've seen people that I thought would adopt, taking on new methods and are literally changing their total surroundings around them to pivot. Right. That's one of the biggest things that I took away from this year is there's a lot of people that were probably right even on that pivoted instead of panicked, right? That pivoted, that are, that this is going to be the best year of their life, that this is the pivotal year in their life to where all their confidence that they need, or at least to get them over a certain hump and a level, mm-hmm. They're like, man, if I can do business like this, if I can grow my business from home, if I could grow my business, if I can go from 1 state to 2 states to 5 states to 10 states, and I haven't even, I'm working in one physical location, I haven't had to fly anywhere. Like, just think about that. Like, just think of all the people that didn't have to fly anywhere, that would have had to fly places to do meetings and fly places and go to this place, go here, go there. And now people are actually used to, people are used to how it is right now. People are getting used to this way of life, even though it's a little weird, I think. It still feels a little kind of a little weird to put a mask on.
Sure.
But tell somebody right now that's been working from home that now they got to drive 3 hours in traffic one way to get to work. Try telling a business owner that's paying that lease for a business and had all those people in there. Now they can have most of their workers work from home, and sometimes even productivity might even be better in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Because some people are maybe happier.
Right.
You know, some folks are probably a little bit happier. They feel a little more in control of their situation. Like, oh, cool, you know, I can wake up, I can smell my coffee, you know, make sure the kids are good. You know, if they're going to school or in school in their rooms or something like that.
Right.
You know, but there's also, I think, another side to that, and I'll ask you that question, and I'll ask you this. You know, that might be some of the positive things, but what do you think some of the, you know, and I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer too, but what do you think some of the, you know, outside people getting laid off and stuff like that from this year? What are some of the, maybe the mental, you know, issues people may be having with kind of being secluded from other people right now?
Well, I think it's that. I think that we are social creatures for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, I enjoy being by myself. Don't get me wrong. But I also enjoy being around other people, and I like having the choice to do so. And so I think some people felt like their ability to choose was taken away, and it, not to get political, but to some extent, I think it has. You know what I mean? To some degree. So I think not being able to socialize the way that you want, I think that was a tough one for people. That was probably the toughest one because it's the effect with everything, like having to be stuck in your house. It's really the part about that bothers people is not being able to be around other people. You know what I mean? I had family that got sick with the virus, and thankfully they were all well, but my grandmother's one of them, and she's 85. And she actually took it like a champ, man. I think I have good genes. She didn't need to go to the hospital or anything like that, but it was a situation that was real scary for all of us, but especially my father, who was very close with his mom, and he could not go over there to see her and things like that. So I think in some of those situations where you can't get to the people that you want to get to, the fear of the unknown with everything that happened, I think those are negatives. But I think it's really the lack of being able to socialize. I think that was the biggest detriment to people, and it's probably that created stress and stuff like that, and then that stress in the home has led to separations and divorces. So I really just think having those limited options as far as just being able to go out and get fresh air and be around other people and stuff like that. And I think that was probably one of the biggest negatives. And the games, the tricks that plays on your mind, where you do get that sense of, dang, man, I'm alone. And then you start to feel alone, and maybe people don't. Then you have this feeling like, man, they just don't get it. They don't know what it's like. You know what I mean? And things like that. So I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or anything like that, but I think that plays a major part in all of the, the little side issues, the stress, the feeling of being overwhelmed, and and the little arguments here and that type of stuff. I think that all stems from that lack of feeling like you have the option to choose to go out, be comfortable, do what you want to do, and things like that. So I think that was one of the biggest things. You mentioned layoffs. You mentioned layoffs as like maybe one of the negatives, but I don't think that it was, bro. I'm going to flip the script on that. Man, I think people getting laid off, and I guess it could be a negative, so I don't want to sound insensitive again or anything like that. But for the right person, I think that getting laid off or having the hours cut and stuff was a blessing. And some of the people that have come into our organization, that was kind of their situation. And it was like, like some people need their back against the wall before
Oh
they
yeah.
decide to fight. You know what I mean? Before they decide to swing. And so I think for the right person, those layoffs and those setbacks and stuff like that, the cut, hours being cut at work. I think for the right person, in 2020, that was a blessing. And I think a lot of people decided that they were going to take control of their future, and they were never going to position themselves to kind of be at the mercy of an employer. So I think that was a big blessing for this, one of the major blessings that has come out of this pandemic.
That's huge.
For the right person, I think they made a decision that, dude, never again will I be at the mercy of an employer. Never again will I be at the mercy of, the government, or needing a handout and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong if you truly need that, but man, going into 2020 and all the shutdown, man, I had read something that was just a mind-boggling statistic to me, and it was like the average middle American family had about anywhere from $400 to $1,000 to like survive. And that's crazy to me. You know what I mean? And one of two things happened, dude. One of two things happened. You either panicked, like you mentioned, right? Or pivoted and said, you know what? I'm going to take this chance to do what I've always wanted to do, or to learn a new skill, or to go out and get my grind on.
Yeah.
Right? There's ways out there that you could hustle, dude. You know what I mean?
So many more now than ever before.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. You can monetize anything right now, right? Like we see that just kind of being in this, not necessarily in just our industry, but just kind of, as entrepreneurs and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that you can't monetize. Hats and T-shirts and, man, laces. And, I mean, you can customize just about anything. You could sell freaking juice and man, there's people that are grinding right now, dude, and building a legacy. And,
getting creative.
Yep.
I think the creative juices start flowing. I think fear can operate a couple of different ways, because a lot of fear has been going around. A lot of fears on TV. A lot of fear. There's fear everywhere. But what fear does, it actually heightens your senses.
100%.
So when you heighten your senses, you can actually think a little clearer in that moment. Like you're like, there's the fight or flight situation, but for that instant, you're thinking super clear. And the only thing you're not focused on anything else except that one thing. Yep. And what fear can do is it might push you up against the wall, but where else are you going to go when you're up against the wall? And I think what happened is, and just like you were saying, comes down to people it's almost like they unplugged from the Matrix. They actually realized how much control they didn't have.
Yes.
What this pandemic really did, it kind of, it just made me think. It made people realize how much control they actually don't have of their situation. How much it made them realize, you know what? I've been floating this account, just passing bills through this thing. Yep. And when my money stops, so to speak, when money stops coming in from somebody else or from this entity that's paying me, then my whole life is over. I really don't have any control.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's what's happened.
Yeah. There's no security, dude. There's no such thing as job security. Are you kidding me?
No.
Again, nothing wrong with it, man. Don't jump down my throat or anything like that.
Here they go in there. They might be going in these guys, boy.
You know what I mean? But no, yeah, man. It really was that. It peeled back some layers, I think, and I think well said, perfectly said. We realized that they didn't have as much control as they thought. We were at the mercy of something else.
Yeah, it's a whole different. Right now, man, just got to stay ready. Right now. Right now, people have decided to kind of take on that. Kind of just lean into their. Use that fear to lean into kind of their dreams, so to speak. Yep. And use it as fuel. that's, people that have decided to do that now going into this next year, because it's probably one of the hardest years a lot of people have ever had in their entire life.
Sure.
But people that have used that now going into hopefully 2021 could be a lot better. And then 2022 and on. Now they know if I can get through that, nothing's gonna take me out. Like I was able to start a business where nobody could even come into my business.
Right.
I was able to build an organization across the country without having to take a flight. It's just causing people to become more creative. Just for myself, I've had to spend all types of creative juices just from different situations that have happened from this year. And, get those creative juices going, man, and write stuff down. And I'm starting to realize how important it is to write thoughts down as soon as I think them. I don't know if you.
I'm still struggling with that, man. I kicked myself a few times just in the last couple of days. Like, what was that thought I had, right? Because we talk about ideas for the podcast and stuff like that. But this is one of those creative things that and this was one of the wins for you, a major win, I think, man, was putting this together. So, writing stuff down. I got to get better at that. And it's funny that you mentioned that because my hand to God, I was brushing my teeth today thinking,
thank goodness.
You need to start journaling. You know what I mean? Like, I need to start journaling, writing down some thoughts, ideas, and stuff like that. But it really does. It allows those creative juices to start flowing and things. So 2020 for me, man, created a lot of excitement. And again, that's not to be insensitive or sound callous, man, but it really excited me all over again for the future. Because like you mentioned, dude, if we made it through this year, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, and if we can make it through this year, like you mentioned, man, it's what's the future look like? And for me, it looks as bright as these lights that are like,
hey, if y'all could just see the other side of this right now, bro, we in here lit up right now.
Yeah,
man. We are
maybe
lit
even brighter
up.
though, man. But yeah, 2020, I think the biggest blessing was it reignited my excitement. It did all those things that you mentioned. It let me know, that I can, right? That things are possible. Whatever I set my mind to, I agree with you on that. It did the same things for me. It also helped me develop some skills. But I think the most important thing that it did was it ignited an excitement in me that I haven't felt in a long time. And the reason for that was just coming to the realization that, man, we've positioned ourselves. I say we, my wife and I, we've positioned ourselves really to strike and take advantage, and we're in the right place at the right time around the right people like yourself and some of our other friends and leadership and mentors and stuff like that. And I'm just excited about what the mindset that I've been able to develop through this year, and that we'll continue to develop through our conversations and things. And so that's what I'm taking with me into 2021 is excitement and understanding that, we can.
Man, we can do this, man. So we did this.
Yeah.
Hey, man, put this together, man. This was some creative juices. Like a year ago, if you'd have told me we'd be doing a podcast on No Pressure, No Diamonds. If y'all see, man, we got the sweaters, man. I don't know how y'all gonna find these. We gotta figure out a way to get these to the people, man.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have some raffles or something like that. But maybe we have like a subscriber. We get to a certain amount of subscribers, then we can give away some sweaters or something like that.
Dude, I'd love to do it.
Do something like that, man. Or cash. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Sweater wrapped in some money. I don't know. Just
maybe send you our favorite book or something. Yeah. There's a bunch of things that we could do.
Yeah, man. But shoot, man, this now, so going into 2021, how important is clarity going into 2021? Like how important is being totally clear on what you want out of this next year coming up?
I mean, if for anybody who's looking to achieve, I don't think there's anything more important. obviously there's things that you need to be. Well, actually, no. There is nothing more important. And here's the reason why. I was going to say you need to be excited about what you're trying to accomplish, but having clarity actually helps create that excitement. Everything comes down to knowing what it is that you're trying to hit, right? So I actually decided to adopt, and I heard this from somewhere, so I can't take full credit, but I actually decided to adopt the word target and replace goals with the word target. So I don't have goals for 2021. I've got targets.
I just learned something new just
You know
now.
what I'm saying? Bro, like, because there's some things that I'm going to hit because I know what they are, right? Where goals, I think sometimes can be very general. I think, especially if you are not used to setting them, goals tend to be pretty general. Like, I wanna lose weight, right, this year. Like, no, how much weight, right? And you don't reverse engineer that. How much weight by this date? What's the regimen? There's no action plan and stuff. So I'm gonna have targets this year, and the clarity on those targets is of the utmost importance because, here's the biggest thing. The difference is between having clarity and not having clarity is trying to hit a target that's moving 100 miles an hour versus a target that is stationary. Right? Where do you like your chances?
Yeah. Ooh,
you know what I'm saying? So I think clarity is, I don't think there's anything more important if you're looking to achieve this coming year. Now, if you're just looking for things to go back to normal, for one, you're probably not still listening. You're probably not tuning into this, but for two, then you're just comfortable and there's no need to worry about having clarity. You're just going to do the same thing. It's going to be Groundhog's Day for you, which I don't think that is the case if you're listening to this podcast. So,
that's a fact.
So get very, very clear on what those targets / goals, whatever you want to use, are going to be. And that'll keep your juices flowing. That'll keep you getting up earlier. That'll keep you beating your alarm, right? You come to a point where you don't need an alarm. It'll keep you excited. It'll keep you engaged. It'll keep you on track and on course. And it'll create all kinds of other opportunities. You know what I mean? The plan maybe is not going to go, as planned, so to speak. But you'll be able to pivot, like my boy Alex said, and know where you're going, right? The target's going to stay the target.
That drop step, you gotta hold that pivot foot solid. You know what I'm saying? For that,
get that Kobe footwork.
Get that Kobe footwork, man. Yeah, that's a clarity, consistent. I wish I had like all types of C's, right? Clarity, consistency. Consistency will really help with. And I've just learned this for myself because times I could be super inconsistent, like insanely inconsistent, right? I could be on one day, off the next day, on 1 week, off the next week, which causes a lot of doubt within oneself because you're not hitting goals because you're inconsistent. And, when you have doubt, you lose focus. When you lose focus, your clarity, you're cross-eyed, at that point, right? You're cross-eyed, literally, you know what I'm saying? So, consistency, man, like that's at the top of my list is be consistent with something and build upon that, right? So I have a list of things to do, list of, list of targets and focuses and things, but let me be consistent. And that will build that will assist in building my taking pride in myself.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and being consistent and setting up things that, set targets that excite you.
Yep.
Like, what freaking excites you to get up, to do whatever you got to, like, what excites you? Maybe if you're in a business or a career or what have you, where you have to like do monotonous things, we're doing, or we have to do monotonous things throughout the day to get to the goals you got to get to. Have things, or get to the targets you got to get to. Have targets that are exciting, or if you're doing something that can seem monotonous, make it fun. Make it fun. Switch it up a little bit. If you do this, then do that. Like one of the things that I was I think the book's called Atomic Habits. I believe the book's called Atomic Habits, is attaching, a new habit to a habit you may, or, to something that may not be as good, right? So attach a new good habit to something that, like, I'll kind of give an example. Say you're always on the phone all the time, or you're always scrolling through social media, right? So maybe attach, every time I click on social media, I'm going to message somebody. I'm going to
make a new connection.
Make a new connection.
Right.
I'm going to make a new connection. I'm not just going to look through this thing. I'm not just going to scroll. I'm going to meet somebody new. Right.
Be intentional about what you're doing.
Be intentional. Man, this guy is on point. Huh?
Hey, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what you were talking about right now, have a target that excites you. Check this out, dude. Before I came over here, I was on social media, and I came across this video, and this dude was talking about kind of how, and it's funny because I just mentioned this, right? Like how people kind of set these general goals, right? And they're not really exciting. They don't. It's just something that you're trying to do. And so he gave this example.
It's cliche sometimes.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. But he gave this example of this guy. He's like a workout guy. What is it? Personal trainer or whatever, right? And this guy tells him, "Hey, I wanna bench 315." And he was like, "Okay, why 315?" And he's like, "Well, like 315. When you throw up 315, you got 3 plates on each side, and it's I don't know, you look strong." And he was like, "Well, why not 400?" And he's like, "Well, like why specifically?" Right? The trainer asked him, "Why specifically 315? What about that is a must for you?" And he's like, "Well, I don't really know." And he was like, "There's got to be a reason why that is in your mind, why the 3 plates are in your mind." And he said, "You know what?" He said, "When I was young, my dad used to wake up every morning, go out to the garage and work out. And he would bench 3 plates on each side." And he was like, "Oh, so when you were a kid, was your dad important to you? Was he your hero?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course. Like my dad's still my hero." He said, "So the 3 plates has nothing to do with the fact that it looks like you're strong or that it's 315 pounds. It has everything to do with you're trying to be as great as your dad was." And the dude just had an aha moment, right? And so when I say general goals or general targets, that's what we're talking about. I've been victim of that, right? Where I've had these business plans and I'm like, I want to make X amount of dollars and I want to hit this next promotion, or I want to lose 60 pounds, but there's no real like why to it, and so if you're looking at getting your plan together for this coming year, my recommendation to you, and this is something that I'm doing, is asking why that is important more than one time, right? And starting to dig a little, which we had a conversation with a mutual mentor, and kind of started me on that. Yeah, you got to dig a little. So don't have those general goals because they're not exciting. It's something that you might be working towards, but the real exciting part is probably a couple layers under the surface. And when you find that, that's when you wake up.
It's an onion.
Early, right? Yeah, it's an onion. You got to peel back the layers.
You got to get that cry. You got to get that cry muscle, man. You got to get that. You got to, you got to get that. You got to get that lip. You got to get that lip going, dog. You got to get that thing going, man. That's huge, bro. Like, how long it's. Sometimes it was still tough for me to kind of figure like why, like how come.
Yeah. Me too.
And I would borrow other people's
Sure.
reasons because I was like, I can't really think of one. Like, I'm kind of selfish. Like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I would, I was like, well, I'm kind of selfish. I don't want to say, like, I just want to be successful. You know, like,
but there's nothing wrong with that.
There ain't nothing wrong with that. Like, but we gotta, you know, but I'm here. But so in my situation, so being around a lot of people, and all these folks are like, you know, they grow up in certain situations. Like, you know, I want to, and there's nothing wrong with taking care of your mom. Like, you know what? I want to pay for my mom to do this. I want to take, you know, my sister took care of me since I was 5 years old. And, you know, she put me through college. And, you know, I just want to repay the favor back to her. I don't want to ever have to go back to poverty again. You know, I lost my house before, and I never want to lose my house again, and my kids, and boop, boop. And I'm just like, I really just want to be somebody. You know, I want to be somebody of significance.
Yep.
You know, like, that's what I want. I want, you know, to do that. But I was a little scared to say that, you know. But now that you say it, it's like, but why do you want to be somebody of significance? Like, how come? You know, and it's got to take it a level deeper. It's because I don't see anybody that looks like me doing what I'm doing. Oh, why don't you see anybody look? And then you keep taking it deeper and deeper and deeper. And then now you in that pit, and it feels a little weird to talk about it because you might get a little emotional.
Yep.
You know, so why at least 3 times is you got to do the why at least 3-4 times, take it deep, and, you know, maybe to help with you figuring out whatever your whys are, ask somebody what theirs are. You know, ask them. You know, like, oh, like, why do you do what you do?
Yeah, you know? I think it could help. I think there's surface level stuff that we all relate to when we hear other people. Like, I could relate to wanting to help my parents. You know what I mean? They're some of the most important people in my life to me, other than my wife. So I can relate to that, but there's underlying reasons for it, right? So when I say I want to retire my dad, right? I've heard other people say that. Their reasons might be completely different than mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The reason why I want to is because my dad missed out on a lot of stuff for his children so that he can provide. You know what I mean? He missed baseball games. He missed practices. He missed gym meets. He missed all of this stuff, but he was always providing, right? And that was a sacrifice. And Alex, dude, I'm going to get a little vulnerable right now, man. That didn't hit me until I was probably like 23 years old. Because me and my dad had butted heads for so long because I resented him for not always being around. And he was like, man, you think you're a man, don't you? And I was like, I am a man. He said, you won't ever be a man until you understand why I do what I do. And I was like, wait a minute. This was more of a sacrifice for him than it was for me. And now as a father, it's obvious to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, bro. So for me, surface level is, I want to retire my dad. Not because it's like sounds cool, but I have reasons for it because he deserves it. Because him not being there, it bothered me, but it bothered him 100 times more. And now I know that as a father, right? I can relate to that, dude. So you can connect the dots looking backwards, dude. But dig. Like my guy Alex said, you got to dig to find out what those are and get it to where, you know, that lip is moving and you know, you're doing a little bit of that. And that'll be what drives you in this 2021.
Yeah, man, this next year, man, is a must to increase in a lot of different areas, man. Faith, family, fitness, finances. Personally, you know, there's a couple of days left. So as we're doing this podcast, there's a couple of days left in the year. And, you know, if you haven't taken any time to reflect on what's important to you, on who's relying on you, because some of you might not know that there's somebody looking at you right now. And, you know, praying that that you're the one. Right? They're like, you know what, you're this one, he's the one, she's the one, you know, like it's on, you know, they might not necessarily be putting it on you, but you might be the one to literally change your entire family's, you know, for generations. You know what I mean? And
balance the books.
You know, man, dang, oof, oof, yo, that's heavy right there.
Yeah.
You know, what does that my lad say, man? You want to get to, when you get to those pearly gates, man, and you know, you want to be identical to the person that you were set out to be. You know, you don't want to get there and not recognize them.
Right.
You know, or them not recognize you. You know, that's huge, man. But yo, this was fire, man. This might be the last episode of the year. I don't know yet. We don't know. But if it is, man, happy New Year. Blessings, man, to your families. You know, thank you for tuning in.
Yep. We
appreciate it greatly. And I'm so glad that we decided to step out of our norms, man, because I could have never seen myself doing this, man. Thank you, 2020.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, 2020, man. Yeah. It's anything you wanna let the folks know?
No, man. I second that, and you know, I know that if you've listened to these podcasts that we've put out from beginning to end, there's been some type of value that you've gotten. At least I hope. I think I know. But man, stay tuned for 2021. Continue to go on this journey with us, because there's going to be some great things coming this coming year, and we look forward to sharing them with you. We hope that with this one specifically, we maybe stirred up some emotions in you that are going to cause you to, you know, just get in a quiet place, find that clarity, and develop a plan for you and your future and that legacy, because we're all put here to do something great and be positively impactful. That's one of the major reasons for us doing this podcast, not because we've had it all figured out and we've, you know, reached the levels of success that we're planning on reaching. But as we're going through these things, we want to be able to, you know, give it back and hopefully add some value. So give yourself the gift of clarity, sit down, write some of that stuff down, dig deep, and understand that whatever those reasons are, they're okay, whether it's selfish, right, or quote unquote selfish, whatever it is. If it feels right for you, just figure that stuff out. Give yourself that gift. Don't let this year pass in vain, right? This wasn't just another year. This was a blessing for you if you allow it to be. There's a silver lining here if you look for it. Take all of these challenges, all of these tribulations that we've gone through this year, and use them as fuel to burn the biggest flame in 2021 and go out and be great. Because I know we're going to do that.
Amen to that, man. Well, with the mic being dropped by my guy Thomas right now with that, man, let's go ahead and close it out, man. 2020, no pressure, no diamonds. Let's get it.